All right, fellas, we're going to kick it back off. Keith, let's get you unmuted. And just so we get as many questions answered as possible, if you could somehow have your chat opened up on the side. Even if you're sharing your screen, they're not going to see your chat. So that way you can kind of control that and answer any questions that come up. For you, coming from USA Football and the amount of coaches that you interact with, what's something that you're seeing that's interesting, or the conversations that you're having about this summer and fall with the situation we're in?
Well, I think the biggest thing for coaches right now is they're trying to plan for maybe all the different scenarios they might face, saying, okay, what if we start 4 weeks from now? What does that look like for us with, the time we're allowed to have with players? And that varies from state to state, obviously. I know a lot of guys right now are doing their installs on Zoom. They're being creative with just some different apps that they use. But I think whether it's high school or college, you hear from these coaches, and the interaction with the players and making sure that they're still building those relationships, I think, is the most important part that they're focused on right now.
And for those that are, that really get a lot out of your session here, how do they find information about your podcast and what you're doing? I think you have it kind of on the slide, but tell our coaches kind of what you're about and what role you play with USA Football.
Yeah, easiest way to find me is to follow me on Twitter at Coach K Grabowski, and you'll see right in my pinned tweet the links to whatever your favorite podcast platform is. Coaching coordinator has been around for 3 years now. We're in year 4, and right now we have been 7 days a week. Typically, we are Monday through Friday, and we interview coaches from every level who are having success and who have had a successful career, and we just focus on all kinds of different aspects of what makes them successful. Really trying to understand, the mindset and the skill set they have to be able to take them to an elite level. And we've had a lot of coaches spending time with us here. Just an incredible lineup. Really this entire year of coaches who have given their time to join us on the podcast. So whether your interest is offense or defense or special teams, it's a certain position, we have something for you there in our playlist, because we've done so many. We have playlists for every single position. So, again, please follow me on Twitter, and that's the easiest way to be able to see what we're doing.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time with us, and I'm going to let you kick off your session and let us know if you need anything. Again, those chats are where people are going to be leaving questions, so if you could get to those, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yep, I got that open. Well, again, thanks for having me here today, and my email and Twitter are there if you want to get a hold of me. I work in the education team at USA Football. I've been there for 3 years now, since I stepped away from coaching the game after the 2016 season. But I have stayed close to the game. I still work with some quarterbacks individually over their season and off season, and work with our local team here and just helping them getting some game planning prep done and watching film and doing all those kinds of things. So I have stayed close to the game. I just don't necessarily have a title or official position anywhere, I should say. At what we're doing at USA Football, though, and I think is of interest to the high school coaches out there, is the football development model. And I know when I ran a youth program as a head high school coach, and we started that was a heavy lift. And I think with what we've been able to put together here, we take that heavy lift off of the high school coach, give you some great resources for your youth coaches, how to run your leagues, very creative in how we've looked at different game types, different contact types, from non-contact like flag to limited contact like padded flag or tackle bar, full contact, looking at games that are small-sided like rookie tackle, all the way to 11-man. So please check that out at usafootball.com. I want to get into today's presentation. I did coach for 27 years, finished up at the collegiate level, Division III level, Baldwin Wallace University in Oberlin, college, was the offensive coordinator. I coached both offensive line and quarterbacks during that time. Over the course of my career, I've been a head high school coach. I've coached on both sides of the ball in basically every position while I was at the high school level. When I did get to the college level, it was a focus on offense. One of the things that was really successful to us, this started really towards the end of when I was a high school coach, and then continued through into college, was our 4 vertical package. And over time, we've been able to have a lot of success with that. There's some information on the podcast. I should have put it up there. But what we really base this on is a lot of philosophy behind what Sid Gilman came up with. And a great quote here from Sid. First, we're going to stretch you horizontally. The field is 53 1/3 wide, and we're going to use all of it, stretching the defensive perimeter, normal split of the wide receiver 20 yards from the ball. Then we're going to stretch you vertically. We're not going to throw long promiscuously, but you have to fear our long game. Some coaches feel that if you throw short, you'll open up the deep game. I approach it exactly opposite. Once we throw long successfully, we can throw short. For us, we really wanted to run the ball. We were not an air raid team. We were more of a pro style type of team. Run the football with tight ends, without tight ends, multiple personnel groups, shifts, and movement. So all those things were really important to us. But we wanted to build around a philosophy, a passing attack where we had those types of principles where we could stretch you vertically and we could stretch you horizontally, which I feel is, perfect about what 4 verticals does. It allows you that ability to do both of those things. We did employ a tight end quite a bit, as I show you some of the cut-ups that I have here for you today. We were a multiple personnel team. We like to get the back into the route to create a 5 receiver pattern, but I could say philosophically, if we felt we needed to protect, if we felt we were going to get pressure, if there was a defender we needed to maybe give someone help with, we were going to protect first and then release into the route. But we did have that ability to free release as well. We have a small number of plays. I heard Coach just talking about that. Small number of plays and concepts to run out of lots of formations, shifts, and motions, and move with a purpose. We want to think about what are we using this for, and I could go into a whole session on that, but that was part of it as well. All right. Important things for us. We wanted to create consistency in quarterback timing and in a progression. And so we looked at field balance theory versus zone as very important. Divide the field into 7 passing zones across the width of it, widen the field, and balance the passing attack and stretch the defense. Utilize all 5 eligible receivers to outnumber the defense. Versus man, an emphasis on timing. With the quarterback taking a drop back into the pocket, receivers run their routes based on a precise number of steps in order to keep timing as in sync as possible. On a timing route, the quarterback will release the ball before the receiver makes his final cut or is turned around, because the receivers are trained to know where the ball will be at and exactly what time. So there's as we go through this, a big calibration portion of it that was really based for the quarterback on his footwork and his eyes, and for the receivers based on their steps. So you wouldn't see our guys doing a lot of different moves at the line of scrimmage to do things, because it really would affect the timing of our passing game. Starts with a definition for us, and we share this with our players. So for us, 4 verticals is a chance to win on. I got someone in the background there. I don't know who's not muted. If you could mute that, please. A chance to win on one of the 4 landmarks if the defense gives it. Lock seam available on the last step of the quarterback's drop. 1.8 to 2.0 seconds. Studied this extensively. It really started with looking at things from Homer Smith, learning some things from Dan Gonzalez in Texas, Dub Maddox in Oklahoma, guys who were really into the calibration part of this, and so we adopted a lot of those things. We'd have an intermediate possession type route available on 3 landmarks, and then the running back checking into avoided area. It's a consistent progression for the quarterback that applies across all our variations. So what was nice about this package is we could start to switch releases to hit these different landmarks, but we were still going to hit all 4 of those landmarks. For the quarterback, while there would be the switch releases, the progression was going to be consistent and the same for him. We wanted to think of this as a vertical ceiling for the throw at 22 yards. There's times you'll see the ball go deeper than that, but in general, we want that ball into the void that's left from those deep guys who are trying to stay over the top and in between the linebackers. All right, so the basics of landmark and spacing. Every variant within our 4 vertical concept has one common element, landmarks. By definition, 4 verticals are a landmark-based concept relying on a specific distribution and spacing of receivers across the field, each spaced 40 feet apart, and utilizing landmarks to ensure spacing. The spacing is consistent on every level of football. What changes are the visible landmarks that are painted on the field. For us, it would always drive me crazy. We would install in the spring at the Cleveland Browns facility, and they had different landmarks with us. So we'd have these guys running next to each other, 20-some feet apart, and have to help them understand that these are not our landmarks and put some different things out there for them because we weren't allowed to mark their field. So the spacing is consistent, though, across every level. Players learn the concept by learning all assignments first, and understanding the entire route structure is based on hitting those 4 landmarks. Utilizing landmarks on the high school field, a receiver on each side of the field will run the stem of his vertical route on the bottom of the numbers. 2 inside landmarks are the 2 hash marks. At the college level, this is 2 yards outside the hash. And again, hashes are 40 feet apart, 60 from the nearest sideline. The bottom of the numbers are 21 feet from the sideline. The landmark space each receiver approximately 40 feet apart, while allowing outside receivers a room to work on the outside landmark. So they have 21 feet outside of them. So for us, this starts with, where are we going to go first? Okay, where is the first look? We're always going to start with a lock seam. So that's the first component of it. We want that seam, whether he's coming from a tight end position, he's coming from a split position, he's going to release the alley defender and use an exit move. I'm going to go over some of those things because that's a very important part of this. One of the key components is how you exit or release that defender. You want to stay on your landmark. And if the nearest safety is over the top, you want to continue to run right at him. If he comes off of your line, look for the ball as you clear his depth. So we really, for this guy, wanted to take decision-making out for him. This is typically our tight end. He's got a lot to do in the run game. His decision is very simple. He's not going to bend. He's not going to break. He's not going to sit down. He is either running and taking that guy out of there and opening up a void for a guy to run after catch, or he's looking for the football. And it's really just based on, what does this guy do? If he spins in the middle of the field, as soon as he clears this alley player, he's looking for ball. Our J receiver, and for us, J just meant our jacket receiver. We were the yellow jacket. So our J receiver was going to run a takeoff seam read. He's going to burst vertical, exit the alley player. If the near safety widens, he's going to bend high and stay high and take the highest angle through the defense. We call it a 95-5 rule. Keep 95% of the rest of the space left in front of you. We didn't want that to get too thick and bend it over this other guy. So we just wanted to get skinny, 95-5. If the near safety pedals straight back, we're going to consider that capped, a term we got from Dub Maddox, and we're going to snap that dig at 14 yards. Okay, so he can bend, or he's going to snap that dig and try to get into this window. I mean, there's an art to that as well. It's not just run your dig and go through as fast as you can. You got to understand where the windows are going to open based on the drops of the linebackers. Okay, the outside guys, they're going to make a decision pre-snap. And, we evolved to this. When we first started, this was really one of the, I think it was, if you're even, he's leaving. Or if if you're even, you're leaving, meaning you're going to keep going. If he's over the top, you'd break it. We got rid of that rule because we were never on the same page. I should say not always on the same page, right? There was always questions. So what we did is just pre-snap, we would use the hard deck or the cushion. Hard deck, again, borrowed from what Dub does with R4. We would use that to tell us that we were either going to try to beat that guy or we were going to come back. And so some of that was set by game plan, but in general, we were at 6 yards is what we would look at. If he was at 6 or lower, we're going to beat him or attempt to beat him, get him stacked. We can then always allow the quarterback to back shoulder that to save that throw. So we could still go back shoulder there. I heard a great presentation from Josh Herring on the virtual coaches summit, and he had a whole part of his presentation just dedicated to the back shoulder, and really gave me a lot of thought. I did not redo this based on that, but a lot of thought to how you can get better at the back shoulder. So again, pre-snap is the decision. We would have him hand signal whether he was capped. I think these guys would look over the quarterback and say, I'm capped. And he would know, okay, they got comeback. So these guys would hand signal all the time, runs and whatever. It was, always to make sure we weren't giving anything away. All right, so key number 1 to making this successful is multiplicity through concept-based teaching. We don't have a route tree. Our players are going to learn the concept and all the assignments in the concept because they might be aligned as the 1, the 2, the 3, the backside guy. They need to know where they're at in here and what the assignments are. But again, we wanted to keep it simple. Our why was always going to be that lock seam. For us, we called it takeoff. They learn our takeoff concept first by understanding that the entire route structure, wherever you end up, is you have to be on one of those landmarks, right? We're going to spread the field. So as part of our day 1 install, we teach our receivers exactly where to align from a 2x2 and the technique they need to win on their landmarks. I'm going to get into the technique here in a second. That's probably one of the most critical parts to making this work. As we progressed our teaching through, we then install our 3x1 and then get into our variations. Our players understand that the takeoff is about hitting those 4 landmarks. The variations just change who's assigned to hit each landmark. For the inside receiver landmarks, again, we have the lock seam. It simply means he has no conversion. As I said before, his decision is either to look for ball or not look for ball. We didn't want him to start slowing down and looking for the football if he had a guy over the top or was capped, because really that's a signal for that guy to start, taking his eyes off of the receiver and see what's happening. We didn't want that. We wanted him to eat that defender up and just run him out of there. The other 3 receivers are taught the decision and have an adjustment based on what the defender does. All right, details of running the route. Okay, while it seems pretty simple, just run on the landmark. How it's done and while the defense is using countermeasures in their techniques makes it much more complicated. So you're going to go and hear all kinds of stuff, how guys are going to collision and carry or reroute, all those different things we would account for in this, and our players understood how to release a defender. So the first key is the wide receiver technique, releasing that defender. To us, it means any kind of reroute, collision, carry technique that may be used to carry him to the safety and to close that window, to close that space and take away that space from us. It's a skill we practice daily. When we were in season, the technique of the underneath defenders are communicated to both our receivers and the scout team. So, we didn't just show our scout card and show a drop to a certain place because maybe they're not a spot drop team. We'd want to communicate to them exactly what that technique was, and we would spend time with our scout team at the beginning of each week in, making sure those guys understood. Yeah, I'm going to get to trips here in a second, Coach. All of them. You're going to see all of them. We want our receivers to understand exactly how they will be defended. So we called it releasing the alley player. Some of this terminology we kind of inherited. I want to say a guy who was a big influence on this was our receiver coach who was there and then went back to the high school level as a head coach, Ray Raddick. Ray's retired now. Hopefully he's out here listening. He's living in South Carolina now. So we talked about exit here. We want to get off the defender quickly, and it involves an aiming point and a release move. We want to execute the correct type of aim point in the release, inside shoulder release or outside or upfield shoulder release, and use the correct kind of move. We wanted it to be single-handed, all right? If we had to use a two-hand hit, it usually meant we did something wrong, gave him too much of our body that it was able to get a piece of us that we had to get a two-handed release move, and it's going to start to disrupt if we have to do that often. So we would use what we call a slip move, really where we're going to just get our arm underneath and shoulder underneath, or a hook move where we try to get a hand on the hip and move by him. Again, those are drilled daily. All right, so I got an illustration here, and then I'll show you some practice film I believe I have up next. But basically what we're talking about here is we want to close this distance. I think one of the biggest things I see it in young receivers making is they don't close the distance between themselves and the defender. We want to do that and really put him in a position that he has to do something that's going to allow us to get to our landmark. Okay, so if he turns and he's opening to him, we want to aim high. We want to aim at that upfield shoulder. Well, why? Okay, we want to capitalize on his momentum. He's moving here, right? If we have him moving here, we want to continue moving him upfield, and basically we want to, on all of these, we want to cut butt side. We want to cut behind him, so now he has to spin to get back into the play, and really we've taken him out of the play. Okay. Again, what would that look like? That guy's move. We're working high to this outside shoulder, and then we're going to slip underneath him and get back on our landmark. We would teach our guys the importance of this is a lot of times if once you're ripping through, you have that momentum now. You don't want to get pushed too far inside, so you have to focus on after you've made that move and ripped through underneath him to lean back to really get that feel of getting back on your landmark. After that point, after you've released the defender here, it's eyes to the safety, right? What is that decision again, unless you're the lock scene? Okay. The other, Coach Raddick taught us these as hard shoulder technique, soft shoulder technique. Okay. The other one is basically that this guy has, and this isn't illustrated correctly. Here we go. I'm sorry. This was the hard shoulder technique for the route that goes across to the opposite landmark, right? So we had that guy leaning back on his landmark. If he is in that trip, someone asked about trips. This is the technique that he used. Same thing. He's going to rip by him underneath, but then continue to that landmark. Okay. The other he called the soft shoulder technique, meaning that the shoulder didn't attack the offensive player at all. It just stays square. Maybe his eyes are in the backfield. We like to use some flash fakes or play action with our four verticals. So we could get at times this guy sitting and looking into the backfield, or maybe he's checking to see if that back's coming out, but he doesn't do anything to attack you. So it's just go right over the top. And both of these, you could teach this also as just cut butt side, right? On the other one, he turned his shoulders. We're getting behind him, cutting him butt side. On this one, he's here. He's dropped a little bit, maybe spot drop, done nothing to attack us. Now we can go ahead and take it and get on our landmark. Okay, and if he had to go across, it would be the same thing. So here's some practice video. And you see us at the Browns facility here with those landmarks, which are not ours. But these guys this is probably like first or second day of spring ball here at Division III level. We're not allowed to put equipment on. But we have that defender out here, and these guys basically working to get to their landmark, right? So wherever they're coming from, and we're not using any specific landmarks. We're just using field space. These guys had this quarter of the field to work on. They're using the cones there as field space. It looks like on this one, they might be working on their spacing routes, which overlay well with our four verts. But this is where every day they're just going to go. This defender is either going to move to try to collision him. They're going to work him high and slip underneath him low, or he's going to spot drop and not really attack, and they'll just be able to continue to their aim point. You see him ripping underneath there. Okay, so why is this important? This all comes down to what we started with, the spacing. We want these guys equally spaced across the field, 40 feet apart, about 40 feet apart. Okay, so both of these are, I believe, from the same game here that I'm going to show you. So we're going to look here on the snap of the ball. We're going to burst at an angle to his near shoulder, right? So this guy's coming across. I think this is our switch variation. I'll see in the next step. Yeah. Okay, so he's coming across. He's going to wrap around. He's got this landmark here. Number 3 is wrapping around, has this landmark right there. Okay. This guy now is going to give him what we call the hard shoulder technique right there. Okay. We want to use his momentum to stretch him high, get on his toes, and then rip underneath. His momentum's going this way. He's strong this way. If we try to run this way and he has any kind of athleticism at all, he's going to continue to push us away from where we want to be on our landmark. He wants to get here. All right. So he's closing the distance, but now he's taking the wrong route. This guy's carrying us. He's delivering him. We got the cross key safety right here. He's delivering him across. All right. We're really in bad shape now. We've given them an advantage. We got a poor exit strategy. We've got 5 over 3. We're not equally spaced. All kinds of issues right here. I see the quarterback at this point. I can see he's recognized that, and he's in his part of the progression here while he has to escape. He doesn't have pressure, but this has been messed up, so he goes a no pressure release. So here's an example later in the game. This is in our what we call our swap variation. We're motioning to it. He's coming across. This is our Y and what we call our lock seam. This is his landmark right here. In swap, and I'll go over these, he's going to take this landmark, and he's got the numbers. Okay, this guy on the outside has the numbers. So here we go. We see this guy is turned. We see that shoulder we want to be aiming for right here. I don't like where he's at right now. He really didn't step on his toes. He started a little bit early, but he's able to rip through there clean and get across to this landmark. And now we see the spacing is, this guy's a little bit tight, but the spacing's better. He's getting to his landmark right here. And we actually beat him over the top. This was specifically for those of you who get that cross key. This is a variation we like, but what we've done now is we've been equally spaced. This guy gets over the top of him right here. Got another example. So this is one of those we call the soft shoulder. He's just going to back out. He's not going to do anything to attack. His landmark is right there. So he's running to see what this guy does. That guy really doesn't put eyes on him at all. Okay, he just cuts butt side, gets over the top. We get him the ball, and he's in for a touchdown right there. So the 2 variations drilled over and over and over again. As I mentioned, the other thing we like with this was our spacing package, which is essentially attacking the same landmarks with 5 guys, spacing them across the field, but being able to snap every route down, shorter timing, kind of hybrid of 3-step and 5-step, a little bit, it's like 3 quick, or I'm sorry, 5 quick. So details of running the route are key. Again, the decisions that we make are important. Decisions versus single high safety is simple for the inside landmarks. Hit your landmark and look at the ball after clearing level 2, after releasing your defender. That's our initial. We're always going to start with that. We're going to go 2 by 2, and we're going to run our landmarks. We spend time on the release of that level 2 defender and making a catch in stride. I'm going to show you our drill for this. We were not routes on air. We did some things because we felt it was so important to have defenders out there for these keys. They didn't have to do a lot, but it allowed us to better practice everything that was going to happen in the different scenarios. And then week to week, again, controlling what that defense looks like so these guys can get used to that picture. The quarterback understands that the ball needs to be thrown underneath 22 yards. All right, so here's the lock seam decision, and this gets put together. They work all their decision drills. They might do them individually with their coaches, especially early in the install. But we're going to also get these then in, we called it route timing. Other people call it routes on air. We called it route timing because it wasn't always, most of the time, there were at least a few defenders out there for keys. All right. Again, if he stays on top, we don't want to look. We don't want this guy's eyes going inside to that dig. So as soon as he starts to look for the ball, if this guy's over the top, he could become a problem in being able to come off a little bit quicker and make that tackle or even separate him from the ball. So we want to take that away from them by just driving him out of there. All right. If that guy stays over top, you keep running. Don't look for the football. Here's the decision for our seam read. A lot of times this was the J receiver or whoever was exchanging with him. Okay. He's going to, again, burst towards that defender. He's going to make his move, hard or soft shoulder, then get eyes to the next defender. What is he doing? Did he spin off the line? Okay. Or did he stay outside of me? Maybe his leverage, you out leveraged him on your move. Either way, 95-5 rule, keep 95% of that space in front of you. We could dig that. So if he has over the top or slightly on your line, leverage, you're not going to be able to run by him, or the angle isn't great to get inside. We'll go ahead and snap that dig at 14. Okay. And he can get back on the line. And then on the out, this is still the same guy. That guy's spinning down, obviously at him as he releases that level 2. He sees level 3 coming down. Most of the time, actually, this guy will disappear, right? Usually this is a replace. He's disappearing on some kind of a blitz. This guy's replacing down. We're going to go ahead and get on our line, look for the football, win deep. Comebacks on the outside. Again, this is done pre-snap. Looking at the leverage of the corner, right? We don't want to get off the same page by trying to make that decision downfield. So it's all made pre-snap. If he's above the hard deck, you're going to break it at 15. If he's below the hard deck, you're going to break it at, you're going to go ahead and beat him. If you don't beat him, the quarterback can still back shoulder you, so that doesn't become dead. And then we could also dig that on the field side. We did that at times, depending on what our quarterback could do. Some quarterbacks can throw that comeback to the sideline. A lot of the guys, though, you're going to want to adjust that and bring him in at 15. So it's the same thing, same kind of rule, in executing that dig break. That's usually the guy later in the progression too. Okay, for the quarterback, the key is consistent progression and precise rhythm. He needs to have a feel for what's going on with his feet. If a slot receiver has a square linebacker over him, which release does he take? Well, what he wants to do is to try to, you're saying, is he square over the top, Coach? I think that's what you're saying. Yeah. What we tell our guys is, in the key coaching point for this is, don't align on your landmark. And I don't think I made that clear yet. For our guys, we didn't want to see them aligned where they were going. We wanted them, depending on where they were, where the ball was, hash, etc., either inside or outside that hash landmark, right? To allow them time to affect that defender. And so if I was square and that landmark was inside, I may try to beat him right away. Now, if that guy jumped inside, I may try to continue him inside and then get back over the top of him, right? Those would be things we would work. But we would, the biggest thing you would hear our receiver coach all the time is, don't align on your landmark, because it didn't give him that ability to be able to get to that, to where he needed to be, right? We want to be able to affect the defender. I know people teach that the other way, and get on your landmark as you're doing this, but for us, this is what we really progressed to and evolved to, that worked for us. If the defender stays on the landmark, we'll go to the next in the progression. If the landmark's unoccupied, he can throw the lock seam on the last step of his drop, right? So if he was throwing to that locked seam, he's going to plant throw on his first step. If he's throwing to the other guy, it's going to be a hit step up and throw. So here's an example. Here's our Y right here. He has the lock seam, and this one we're in a 2x2, probably a third down and long here. No, it's a first and long. We had a penalty. So we're going to see, is video clear for everybody? Is someone just answer a yes there? I did it this way. I hope the huddle seems to be a little bit choppy. Okay, cool. All right, so here we go. All right. Now this defender puts himself in a position that he comes down. This space is unoccupied. He's going to go. Good job really putting the ball in there, letting him to use his frame and stay away from that defender who's coming. But there we go. Lock seam, look for the ball. Again, that's the high school hash right there. College hash are the tick marks that you see. Okay. Again, the key is the consistency. What a level 2 defender on the lock seam does is tell him that he is that the outside landmark is singled up. So, it'll be easy when I go through this on the film. We work this scenario often with a quarterback, progressing from that lock seam to the comeback or the vertical on the sideline. That comeback for us would be thrown off of 2 hit steps in order to have that timed up properly. So here's an example right here. We're in 2x2. This is our Y to the boundary. A lot of times we did like to move him around and vary where he's at. But when we put him to the boundary, this gives us that opportunity here that this guy's over the top of him. He sees that, and we get the carry, right? So he's got a guy over top underneath, which means we got the single on the outside, nice clean lane for the comeback. Okay, so again, for him, we're repeating this over and over. He gets used to seeing when I'm in 2x2 and he carries, there's nobody who can go underneath, right? So the first thing the quarterback's doing is looking at safety rotation. For a lot of this, it's who's over. And we'd see someone high. I mean, it's obviously better, but we were never scared off of quarters coverage scaring us off of 4 verts. We wanted to run 4 verts against everything. Okay, again, staying on that idea of this key being consistent rhythm. Okay, going to come off the lock seam now, and we're going to go to the guy who's bending. So here's the Y, or a substitute for him. I think this looks like one of our tight ends. Yeah, this is a tight end. Okay. We see the safety right here. He's over top. They're kind of playing a half over here. That allows us to bend into the middle of the field. So that guy lets go. That's a long throw. All right, one we would not advise him to make. So though he carries him a little bit, we don't want to throw a comeback with this guy kind of sitting right here. So he looks at it. Okay, that's taken away. Now he's progressing across there, and he's going then immediately to that next space, which that guy sees the safety widen. He bends it into the middle. It kind of makes it easy for us with the reaction of the defense there. Okay. He can work that comeback, either one. Again, a lot of times we'd adjust to the dig or to a back, then checking out or running a shallow route. So here's an example of working to the dig, spring ball example right here. We got a tight end on the line of scrimmage. He's working across. He's got this landmark here. All right, I don't like where he's lined up on it. Now he's got a little bit of space. I'd like him to have a little bit more. That's fine. He's got the guy rolls down. We break the dig right there. He throws into the dig window. I know I'm breezing through this, and I do have something that I could put up on Coach too, more detailed on all the film and the different types of reads. We have some adjustments to reads to be able to attack different defenses. Again, very multiple concept for us. So here we go. We're going to work to the shallow by the back. What I said, a lot of times this guy is protection first. So most of the time we gave him a call where he was going to check out and get to his shallow route. Sometimes we'd free release him. It all depended really on what we felt we needed week to week as far as protection. Right here, he's checking out, running his shallow across. The quarterback is looking. He's made his escape a little bit. We don't mind that this thing comes out late, because when you think about what's happening, especially when we're in a situation like this, okay, they're definitely playing man. We got a pressure coming right here. Okay. I mean, he's out, and he's just a better athlete than that guy. Right now, he's running with the football. So that's an example against man. I mean, works obviously is really good against zone 2. Those teams want to carry and deliver these guys. That back getting out late is a great option. Quarterback, the rule for him, I mentioned his timing, that consistent progression. What's part of his progression is to be able to escape the pocket, right? We have pressure escapes, and we have what we call no pressure escapes, meaning that he didn't like what he saw, but no one's threatening him. At some point, though, his footwork needs to tell him to leave. So for the quarterback, if he's taken 2 hitches up, really, this is in any concept we would run, and he has not thrown the ball, he's then going to begin his escape. We would always have him begin with a B gap because of the way we worked our protection. That was a natural opening for him in the protection. So he'd start to work up into there and work a ton of this drill. I don't think I put it in here, but the B gap escape drill, we would work daily with our guys just to get that feel of, is the B gap open or not? And then what's my footwork, and how do I lay around the pocket if that's closed? So here's a no pressure release. If you guys know Darren Slack, and remember from the old C4 videos, the little lefty, his son, that's him right there. That's Michael. His freshman year played for us, and this is one of the first games he played in. And Michael doesn't like what he sees downfield here. He starts his eyes over here. We got looks like we got our swap route on. We got spacing. He's in the game. I know these are young receivers. Some bad spacing here. Doesn't look what he sees. Hitch out. And again, you see that natural gap we created.
10 minutes, coach.
Okay. Here's another example of the B gap escape. And again, probably not going to get through this. I put a ton of examples and the different variations into here. I'm going through the keys to this first. The variations are another part. Again, plan to put that up on CoachTube. Just let me know. Send me your email at the end. Okay, so I'm not sure. Let's see. We got a 3x1. Okay, he gets collision. He's bracketed. He doesn't like anything he sees. Watches his footwork. And watch again. Our protection's going to move this way. Open up the B gap. He tries to maintain his status as a passer there, but no one comes open, so he's on the run. Okay, our route timing for 4 verticals. I mentioned that. A lot of people call it routes on air. This was a very collaborated effort as to how these lines move. It was installed in a meeting day 1. We give it to our players. In the meeting, we would walk them through and walkthroughs. Here's how we're running this drill, so they knew how to rotate through. And we would coaches would control the different reactions of these defenders. So especially when we're installing, it didn't matter. Some of these wouldn't necessarily marry up with exactly what overall coverage was, but we're just working on these guys, seeing what their specific decision-making is, seeing how they're going to release these defenders, communicating if they're inside or outside, etc., how they're going to work in this drill. So this drill was, again, key to us. We would work our different variations. I showed 2x2 here. We'd work our switch, swap, change, our 3x1s or 2x2s. hold on one second here. There we go. All right, so here's our variations. And I'll get through as many as I can. If you guys have questions, please throw them up there. I'll make sure I answer your questions. So our variations, and I'll just show a couple. Here's our basic 4 verts diagrammed, right? Here's an example of our basic 4 verts. Everybody's seen this. I'm just going to show one. We'll move on. We got a quarter structure right there. Don't remember if they stay in it. Yeah, they do. Okay, and we just win on the outside here. I'm not loving the spacing we got. He takes the wrong path. You see it right there? I'd have preferred he had ripped underneath him. This safety really was free to play over the top because he got collisioned. Here's where drive him high, rip underneath. And then he did have a chance. That was our J. He could have been in there. But we make a play anyway. Sometimes it all just works out. Okay, here's one with a flash fake. And this play at the college level in the 6 seasons that we ran, it was never worse than 63% completion. I think we had it as high as, and it might have been in this year with this quarterback, really got good at 72% completion. Okay, here's 3x1. A lot of times we had the tight end attached. Again, we liked this kind of surface with the tight end up on the ball. He's going across. He's got this landmark. He lined up on it. Don't like that. But what we get here, we're worried about this guy, right? So we're 2 guys playing here, playing a half over here, opening up the seam. This guy's rolling the middle, gets there late. Easy completion for us. Okay, I'm going to move along just so you can see the other ones because I know I'm running out of time. Any questions? Again, a lot of variations here we didn't get to. We'd run some shallow concept out of this by just tagging a shallow in. So here's an example of that. Out of a bunch formation, compressed set. So if you're a wing team T or a double wing T team, you can still do this and be very effective with this. For us, this is a great concept to be able to stretch the defense, not let people cheat on the run. I apologize that we ran out of time. Let me show I really like these. You see some of those straight variations there, but more often than not, we were calling these, or we even got to the point where we just called takeoff, check with me. Yeah, Gideon, he does. That was Ryan O'Rourke in there for sure. And again, overlays with our spacing concept. So here's takeoff switch. Switch just tells these guys they're changing assignments. Again, our rule for this guy is or changing landmarks, my bad, not assignments, because his assignment is always what? Lock seam. Again, got a lot of work to do. We just didn't want to put that on him. So here we go. This is one I mentioned we had different places we could start the read. So Ryan on this one actually starts the progression over here. We saw this. This is our last opportunity in the game. We scored with under 2 minutes to go. Previous series, they jumped into, all game they've been playing quarters. They jumped into bracketing this guy and playing him over the top, which now opened this opportunity. So we missed this opportunity in the one before. Ryan actually came off the field, said, I saw it. I said, what variation you want? He's like, let's go with switch. So here it is. This is first down. We need to score on this drive under 2 minutes to go. He gets flushed. All right. He's looking first over to that side to drive the eyes there. Now, we've got him. We're 2-on-1 essentially on this guy because they went half, and that's the fastest guy running down the field. Here's another variation of it. Motioning to it. I don't like where that Y is at. So anyway, we came off to the other side. We didn't have great spacing there. The last one I'll show you, I'll jump ahead to the swap. I think I have that next. Change is 2x2. Really like this. You know, if you're 2x2, I prefer, like if we saw any quarters, our quarterback was automatically, because we were, like I said, we were checked with me, are automatically going to this because it helped open up space. So a lot of times we get these comebacks and we just be patient. Like, and this is, you know, you see a few times in this exact same drive, we throw this, they get impatient, change the coverage to try to take away the, and I think it's the next one here. This one here, they want to take away the comeback now. And so they're going to spin somebody to get underneath this. We're motioning to, I'll get to, again, a ton of these here. I apologize, I couldn't get through all of them. This one's on mud. This one was to a comeback. I want to show you the one. We'll go with, let's see, that's the single side. So this is the swap, and we liked, I think we're getting a motion across here. We like this against any kind of cross key. We don't get that this time, but a lot of times we find it mess up the safeties. So there's one, we're just hitting it on rhythm, right? And this will be the last one I'll show because I know I'm out of time here. Here's, again, you want more of these, I have it much more detail, but the important thing were the 4 keys I mentioned at the beginning, and now you're just seeing the application of this, right? As I said, like this starts to stress the defense who wants to cross key, or if they're playing quarter, half, they're in trouble with this variation. You see this guy going over the top here. Now this safety is, he's essentially, these 2 guys are 3-on-2 to the outside. They got to have somebody carry deep, and a lot of times that doesn't happen. So any questions before we wrap it up here? I know I'm up against time.
And again, Coach, if you could put your contact information, either pull up that slide or put it in the chat, I think that'd be super helpful.
Right.
Yeah, perfect.
There we go, right there. And again, I'm doing, I think either power read, or I might have 2 actually, one on formations on the free football summit as well. So check that out there. Any questions? Twitter is always the best. Sometimes things get lost in my email box, but DM me on Twitter. That's open for anybody. I appreciate everybody's time. And again, please check out what we're doing at USA Football with the football development model and how that can help you build your program K through 12. Thanks again to Sideline Power for having me here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. And just as we're transitioning to the next presenter, we're going to be sharing these different ads we have here. Make sure that you guys get audio, because I know that there are some questions on audio from this. There we go. Perfect. And we'll get our next speaker starting up right here at 11 a.m. Central. Thanks again, Keith.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.